We are here to help you install your new AFWFilters water softener with the Fleck 5600sxt. Your system will come in multiple boxes. One box will have the preloaded resin tank and the other box has the brine tank and Fleck control head inside. Boxes can get pretty roughed up in transit but thankfully are usually fine with no actual damage. If your resin tank arrives on its side or upside down, that is okay as everything inside the tank will settle as it should when you do the first manual regeneration cycle. If your system comes with additional media like KDF, make sure you add that into the resin tank and cover the riser tube opening so nothing gets down that. What should you do if your polyglass resin tank arrives crooked? The black boot on the bottom of the tank may get knocked out of alignment during shipment. If your tank is a bit tilted, pick the tank up a few inches off the floor and drop it gently but firmly down, favoring the side that needs to be adjusted to make the tank stand straight. Next, we will go through and make sure all parts are there and ready to be installed. You should receive an instruction kit with your system. We do also have our instructions available on our website. Next items are the control head, yoke, upper basket if your system uses one, bypass, brine tank overflow elbow fitting and the barbed drain fitting for the control head, and lastly the brine line small parts kit. Be sure to verify all metal clips and screws are included on the bypass and paddle wheel meter. Now it's time to assemble the parts. First, remove the shipping cap from the resin tank. Verify riser tube is 1/4 inch or less above the top of the tank. If riser is offset a little bit, that's okay and it will straighten out when the control head is installed. Just be sure there is no damage to it. Next, lubricate tank O-ring on control head. Silicone lubricant or cooking oil must be used. No petroleum-based lubricants should be used. If your system came with an upper basket, attach that to the control head. Note that the color and style may vary from the one shown. Now you're ready to screw on the Fleck control head. If your riser tube is off-center but there is no visible damage, then it is okay and will straighten out once the control head is put on the tank. Be sure not to use anything on the threads of the control head or the tank and only hand tighten the control head. Next, install the barbed drain fitting on the control head. Do not over-tighten drain fitting. Wrap the threads on the yoke with Teflon tape. Lubricate the O-rings on the bypass valve. Again, be sure only to use silicone-based lubricant or a food-grade cooking oil. You want to make sure these are well lubricated to help prevent any leakage on your connections. Once your bypass is ready, push the yoke onto the male fittings with the O-rings. You may need to loosen the metal clips and screws to have more room for the yoke to go all the way on. Be sure not to over-tighten these clips and screws as that can cause them to break. Just make sure they are snug. Now you will want to lubricate the O-rings on the paddle wheel meter that is attached to the control head. Then, slide the bypass onto the male fittings on the meter. Again, you may need to loosen the metal clips and screws to be able to fit it on all the way. Do not over-tighten these. Make sure they are snug and straight. The meter, bypass and yoke assembly will have some movement to it. This is normal and is needed for any pressure changes. Remove the brine line from the brine well. Next, we are going to secure the brine well to the brine tank with the elbow overflow fitting. You may need to remove the float assembly from the brine well to have more room to install the overflow fitting. The rubber gasket will go on the inside of the tank and brine well and the plastic gasket will go on the outside of the brine tank. If you removed the float assembly, reinstall that back into the brine tank. We are not plumbers. This video is to give you a general idea of installation. There are several different ways this system can be installed. The most important thing to check is that the water flow and inlet and outlet are correct. If these are reversed, it can cause several issues with your system and plumbing. If you are unsure of the water flow, then make sure to verify before plumbing in your system. When you are facing the Fleck digital screen, the incoming, untreated water will go into the right side and the outgoing, treated water will flow out the left side. There are also arrows on the bypass indication the direction of flow. Flipping over the bypass will not change the direction and the system has to be installed per the flow indicators. Grab your brine line small parts kit and install on the brine line. Make sure parts are in the correct order and direction. The brine line may already have the brass insert installed. The brass nut will go on first, then the white ferrule. Make sure the larger side goes towards the brass nut. The screen included with the kit is optional. Now screw the fitting onto the control head. Make sure this is snug. You may need to tighten with a wrench to get it snug. Now we will install the other side of the brine line into the float assembly on the brine tank. You may need to loosen the compression nut a little to be able to insert the brine line all the way. Tighten the compression nut and make sure it is secure. Next, install a drain line on the Fleck control head. This is not included with the system. You will need 1/2 inner diameter tubing for this. Make sure it is secure and runs to its own drain. This is under pressure when the system regenerates. It is important to follow your local plumbing codes for any application. Once everything is installed and secure, slowly open your bypass to service position. Open the incoming water side first. Inspect for leaks. If you notice any leaks, just turn the bypass handles back into bypass position. When the tank is filled and you have verified there are no leaks anywhere, go ahead and plug in the Fleck control head. Before running a manual backwash cycle, open the nearest faucet on the cold water side and allow water to flush the system for 15 to 20 minutes, then turn the faucet off. When no one is using water in the home for about an hour and a half, hold the manual regeneration button to start a backwash cycle to ensure the system is going through all the steps properly.